The message arrived at 03:14 Earth Standard Time, slipping through deep space sensors like a ghost. The night shift team inside the United Earth Listening Array did not even notice it at first. It was too quiet, too soft, almost like a whisper brushing against metal. Technician Laura Miles leaned closer to her screen. "Strange, what is this?" she murmured. A thin pulse blinked on her monitor. Not noise, not static, something else. She pressed a few keys. Signal repeated. A broken voice, old, tired, and full of fear, echoed through the speakers. "Deathworlders, please help us before everything ends." Laura froze. Her partner Tom stared at her. They both knew this was no human voice. The message came again, slightly clearer this time, but still weak. "Deathworlders, help us," Tom whispered. "Should I call the director?" Laura nodded. "Yes, immediately." Within minutes, alarms flashed across the listening array. Commanders, scientists, linguists, and security personnel rushed in from every wing of the base. Experts worked fast, grabbing headphones, adjusting frequencies, scanning wave patterns. The message kept repeating, always the same desperate plea. Deathworlders, humans. Someone out there knew them. Someone out there feared something so much that they were calling humanity for protection. That thought alone chilled everyone. Admiral Jason Rourke was awakened by a call straight from Earth Command. His voice was rough from sleep. "What emergency?" "We received a deep space distress signal," the operator replied. "It's not human and it mentions Deathworlders." Rourke sat up immediately. "Send everything to my terminal, I'm on my way." Within an hour, he was standing inside the Earth Defense Command Center, staring at the message waveform looping on the main screen. The voice repeated again. "Deathworlders, please help us before everything ends." Rourke crossed his arms. "How far did this travel?" Dr. Kadim, the top astrophysicist, answered. "Based on the signal decay, Admiral, this message may be several thousand years old." The room fell silent. Rourke turned slowly. "But it's only reaching us now." "Yes," Dr. Kadim said. "It means they sent the signal long ago, but they also refreshed it recently. Someone is still alive. Someone is still calling." Rourke frowned. "So either they survived thousands of years, or something is forcing them to ask again." Everyone felt a cold shiver at that suggestion. The message was transmitted to every major Earth fleet commander. Military analysts studied the voice patterns. Linguists compared the sound structure to known alien contacts, but nothing matched. Earth had met alien species before, traders, explorers, even rivals, but none had ever called humans Deathworlders with this much fear. This tone sounded like someone begging a monster for help against an even worse monster, and that made humanity nervous. Humans were known across the galaxy as Deathworlders, creatures from the most dangerous ecosystem ever recorded. They had survived storms, predators, diseases, wars, and disasters that would kill most alien species instantly. Humanity was tough, stubborn, unpredictable. Some alien species admired humans. Many were scared of them, but none had ever sent a message like this. By sunrise, the United Earth Council called an emergency meeting. Every screen in the chamber showed the same flickering message, like a heartbeat of fear coming from across the galaxy. Councilwoman Reyes asked, "Should we respond?" General Harkin slammed his fist on the table. "We don't even know who they are, could be a trap." Dr. Kim shook her head. "This signal is genuine. No species would fake this kind of desperation. Something terrible happened to them." Another councilman added, "Or is happening now." Rourke leaned forward, voice calm but sharp. "We cannot ignore a cry for help. Deathworlders or not, humanity doesn't turn away from someone in danger." The council room murmured. Ray studied him. "What do you propose, Admiral?" Rourke answered without hesitation. "I'll take the Deathworlder Fleet and go to the source of the signal." A heavy silence washed over the room. Finally, Reyes nodded. "Approved. Take command of Task Force Helios." Rourke saluted. "We'll bring them home or stop whatever is coming." 2 days later, the massive docking ports of Earth shook with mechanical thunder. The Deathworlder Fleet prepared for departure. Task Force Helios included the dreadnought UES Titan, humanity's strongest warship, 3 heavy cruisers, 6 destroyers, 2 medical ships, 1 science vessel, and the elite Marine Strike Battalion. Crowds gathered around the launch platforms. Children waved Earth flags. Families hugged soldiers leaving for a journey no one truly understood. Rourke walked along the main hangar, inspecting every squad. His presence carried a calm confidence that settled even the most frightened recruits. He stopped beside Lieutenant Maya Holt, a skilled pilot with sharp eyes. "Nervous?" he asked. "Only a little," she admitted. "What do you think we'll find, sir?" Rourke looked up at the huge starship above them. "I don't know, Lieutenant, but anything afraid of humans is already strange. If they are afraid, imagine what they are running from." Maya swallowed quietly. Hours later, the fleet left Earth orbit, engines glowing brightly as they cut through the silence of space. The moment Earth's blue sphere vanished behind them, the fleet moved into formation. Rourke stood on the Titan's bridge. "Estimate to signal origin." The navigation officer replied, "Approximately 9 days at full warp." Rourke nodded. "Set course." The stars stretched into bright lines as the fleet entered warp. During the journey, the science vessel decoded more of the distress message. The voice belonged to a species calling themselves the Selari, peaceful, fragile, diplomats, scholars, healers. They were not warriors. Rourke listened carefully to the full version of the message, which they finally reconstructed. "Deathworlders, we beg you, we are the Selari, our world is ending. A darkness devours our stars. We cannot fight. Please help us before there is nothing left." No coordinates for their homeworld, just coordinates for the meeting point. Dr. Kadim frowned. "It's like they don't want us to know where they live." Rourke understood why. "If something hunts them," he said, "they won't risk leading that threat to their home." Everyone felt a knot forming in their stomachs. On the 5th day of travel, something unexpected happened. A scout ship from the fleet detected strange disturbances ahead, patches of space where light bent unnaturally like waves frozen in midair. The scout pilot radioed in. "Captain, something is wrong out here. Space looks broken." Static followed. Rourke leaned forward. "Scout 2, repeat." No answer. The signal blinked twice and vanished completely. No explosion, no debris, no trace. The ship was simply gone. Rourke's voice tightened. "Mark that location. No one else goes near it until we understand what happened." Fear crept across the bridge. What could erase a ship so cleanly? On the 8th day, the fleet finally reached the coordinates. But what they found made the entire crew fall silent. A shattered moon floated nearby, ripped apart like paper. Chunks of rock drifted slowly, glowing with strange burns. Every sensor screamed warnings. There were high radiation spikes, energy scars, and gravitational wounds. Something terrible had happened here, something powerful. A single small alien vessel drifted amongst the debris. Its hull was cracked, engines dying, lights flickering like a candle in wind. "Open a channel," Rourke ordered. A fuzzy image appeared on the bridge screen. The alien was thin, with pale skin and large, gentle eyes full of fear. It looked exhausted, weak, almost dying. Its voice trembled. "Deathworlders, you came." Rourke stepped closer. "We received your message. I am Admiral Rourke of Earth. Who are you?" The alien bowed its head weakly. "I am Vala of the Selari. We feared you would not answer. We feared all hope was gone." Rourke asked, "What happened to your world?" Vala's eyes filled with sorrow. "A devourer fleet," she whispered. "They consume everything. Stars, moons, life. They will find this place again soon. You must leave while you can." Rourke shook his head. "We don't run. Tell us what you need." Vala stared at him, confused. "You would stay, even knowing the devourers are coming." Rourke's voice was steady. "We didn't cross half the galaxy to turn back now." Vala covered her face with trembling hands. "You Deathworlders, you are not like the stories say. The galaxy fears you, but maybe it is because you fight when others would break." Rourke nodded. "Tell us everything. Start from the beginning." Vala breathed deeply, gathering strength, and then she said the words that chilled every human soul on the ship. They are coming soon, and when they arrive, not even Deathworlders will leave this system alive. The bridge went silent. Silence filled the bridge of the UES Titan after Vala's warning. Her words hung in the air like a dark shadow. When the Devourers arrive, not even Deathworlders will leave this system alive. No one dared speak for several seconds, then Admiral Rourke exhaled slowly. We need answers, now. He turned to the communications officer. Bring Vala's ship aboard, secure medical support, and keep shields at maximum until we understand what happened here. The crew moved quickly. Outside, robotic arms extended from the Titan, carefully guiding the damaged Selari vessel into the hangar. Its hull creaked, metal groaning from wounds no weapon in human history could explain. Inside the hangar, doctors rushed to the alien craft. The airlock opened with a hiss, revealing Vala's thin figure collapsing forward. A group of medics caught her before she hit the ground. "Easy, Doctor," Elena Varin said. "You're safe now." Vala looked around, blinking at the bright lights. "So much metal," she whispered. "Your ships feel strong, heavy." Dr. Varin smiled gently. "Deathworlder ships need to be." Vala gave a faint, tired laugh. "Yes, we have heard the stories." She was placed on a floating stretcher and moved into the medical bay. Several children watching from a viewing window gasped softly at her appearance. Large eyes, gentle face, skin faintly glowing with bioluminescent veins. To them she looked almost like a fragile angel. But the adults noticed something else. Fear lived inside her eyes, deep and permanent. Something had broken her spirit long before humans arrived. When Vala was stable, Admiral Rourke entered the medical bay. He stood beside her bed, hands behind his back. "I am Admiral Rourke," he said. "Thank you for trusting us." Vala studied him carefully. "You came when others would not. That alone makes your kind unusual." Rourke pulled up a chair. "Tell us who these Devourers are. What do they want?" Vala closed her eyes for a moment, gathering strength. Her voice shook as she began. "They are not a species. They are not alive the way you or I are. They are a hunger, a machine and a creature at the same time. A plague built to consume everything they touch." Rourke frowned. "Consume?" Vala nodded. "Stars, moons, worlds, life, even empty space. They feed on energy and matter. They do not negotiate. They do not speak. They only take." She looked at him with sorrow. "They took our son piece by piece." The room froze. Dr. Varin whispered, "That's impossible," but Vala continued. "The Selari are peaceful. We build libraries, gardens, temples. We have no weapons. We felt safe for thousands of years, until the Devourers arrived. They swallowed our outer colonies in days. Our moons turned to dust. Our homeworld, I do not know if it still exists." A single tear slid down her cheek. "I am the last of my fleet, the last to escape, and even I will not live much longer without help." Rourke leaned forward, voice steady. "We will help, but we need information. How do the Devourers travel? How do they fight?" Vala hesitated. Then she reached into a small crystal pouch on her belt. Inside was a glowing data shard. "This contains everything we know about the Devourers, their patterns, their movements, their last attack." She placed it in Rourke's hand. And Admiral, her voice grew even softer. "They will come here. I followed them. I ran as far as I could, but they chase energy signatures, and your fleet shines like a star to them." Rourke tightened his grip on the shard. "Then we fight before they reach us." Vala looked lost. "You cannot win. Your weapons will only anger them." Rourke stood tall. "We don't need them to be impressed. We just need them to be stopped." Back on the bridge, Rourke placed the shard into the main console. The holographic table flickered and then lit up with alien symbols. A massive map unfolded, stars, systems, and trails marked with glowing red lines. Dr. Kadim gasped. This is their path." One line after another showed a devastating pattern. Every star system touched by the red lines was gone. Empty. Black. Dead. Planetary icons faded into dust symbols. Moons were crossed out. Entire orbits disappeared. Lieutenant Holt whispered, "It looks like someone took a giant bite out of the galaxy." Dr. Kadim nodded slowly. "Exactly, every system they pass through becomes nothing." Rourke's eyes narrowed. "How far until they reach us?" Kadim tapped several projections. "Based on Vala's trajectory, maybe a few days." A heavy silence settled over the bridge. The crew worked day and night analyzing Devourer signatures. One thing became clear: the Devourers didn't use warp. They bent space like paper, as if puncturing reality was normal for them. "No wonder the scout ship vanished," Maya said during a briefing. "They probably flew straight into one of those space tiers." Rourke nodded. "Which means we avoid the rift zones, map them, mark them, and keep every ship away." But the tension grew thicker with each hour. Whenever a junior officer walked the halls, they could feel it in the air: fear, curiosity, adrenaline, all mixing into a dangerous cocktail. No one knew what these Devourers looked like. No one knew if they could be killed, and no one knew if humanity's strongest fleet would be enough. Meanwhile, Vala recovered slowly. She walked through the observation deck with Dr. Varin, gazing at the stars. "So many of them still shine," Vala whispered. "Your galaxy feels alive." "You sound surprised," Dr. Varin said. Vala looked away. "Where I come from, we no longer see light, only darkness." Dr. Varin placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You're safe here." Vala smiled weakly. "I want to believe that, but you Deathworlders, you do not understand what hunts you." Her voice cracked. "The Devourers will not stop until everything here is gone." Later that night, the Titan's alarms blared. Maya Holt ran onto the bridge, heart pounding. "What's happening?" The sensor controller shouted. "Multiple distortions detected, space-time tearing at 20,000 kilometers." Everyone held their breath. Rourke marched to the central holodable. "Show me." A three-dimensional projection displayed several black rifts opening like wounds in space, twisting violently, pulling light toward them like water down a drain. "Are they Devourers?" Meyer asked. Kadim was pale. "Not yet. These are scouts. Space fractures they create as they travel. They're close, very close." Rourke pointed to the defense grid. "Bring cruisers into protective formation around the Titan. Ready shields, arm all batteries." Officers moved without hesitation. For the first time, the Deathworlder Fleet stood face to face with the first sign of the Devourer race. Empty space twisted again. A dark shape flickered through the rift, huge, spiked, and silent. The bridge lights dimmed. Vala arrived at the bridge entrance. Trembling, her glowing veins pulsed fast, an instinctive reaction of fear in her species. She pointed at the shadow emerging from the tier. "That is their eye, their watcher. If it sees you, the Devourer Fleet will know exactly where you are." Rourke clenched his jaw. "Then we destroy it before it warns anything." Vala shook her head quickly. "No, if you attack, the echo will reach them faster. If you wait too long, it will send the signal anyway." Maya whispered. "So we can't attack and we can't do nothing." Vala closed her eyes. "You must blind it, not with weapons, with silence." Rourke turned to his crew. "Shut down every emission except life support. No engines, no power signatures, nothing." The entire Titan dimmed until only emergency lights remained. The fleet followed suit, becoming a ghostly cluster of silent giants drifting in space. The Dark Watcher's form pulsed as if sniffing the energy around it. Seconds felt like hours. "Doctor," Kadim whispered, "if it finds us." Rourke stayed silent, eyes fixed on the shadow. The creature scanned, drifted, then it slipped back into the rift, the tier closing behind it. Maya collapsed into her chair. "Did we survive?" Vala sank to her knees. "Yes, but it will return soon," she said. "This was only the beginning." Rourke straightened, eyes hard with determination. "Then we prepare for the real fight." And across the system, as if responding to a cosmic call, more rifts began to open. The Devourers had found their trail. The strange watcher from the rift had vanished, leaving the Deathworlder Fleet in a cold, breathless silence. No one moved. No one spoke. Every crew member felt the same thing, the growing, invisible pressure of something approaching from deep space. Admiral Rourke stood on the bridge of the UES Titan, staring at the empty spot where the rift had closed. His jaw tightened. "That was just a scout," he said quietly. Dr. Kadim nodded. "A sensor, a probe, something alive yet not alive." Maya Holt whispered, "And it almost saw us." Vala, still trembling near the holloatable, hugged her thin arms across her chest. "You do not understand," she said softly. "Those scouts are only the first breath of the devourers. Wherever they appear, the fleet follows shortly after." Rourke stepped toward her. "How long until they arrive?" Vala looked up, her glowing eyes full of fear. "Hours, maybe days, but they will not stop. They will never stop." The bridge went silent again. The debris field sensors detected faint objects drifting in the system. Rourke ordered the cruisers to form a scanning formation. When the first images appeared on the screen, the bridge fell into a deep, horrified silence. Maya whispered, What is that?" The footage showed thousands of pieces of debris, but not from ships. These were chunks of planets, stone fragments, metal veins, crystallized water, all floating like broken teeth in the void. Dr. Kadim zoomed in on one massive shard. Lines on the surface formed patterns. "That looks like a city structure," he said. Vala nodded painfully. "It was the capital moon of our trade route. It held millions." Rourke stared at the screen. "It's been hollowed out from the inside." Vala replied, voice shaking, "Yes. The devourers eat everything, even the mantle of moons. They leave only dust behind." Maya turned her chair. "So the devourers don't invade planets." Vala shook her head. "They consume them." A young officer covered his mouth, whispering, "We're dealing with something that eats planets." Kadim pressed a button. Another image flashed, a massive melted crater floating in the void, glowing faintly red. "This used to be a sun fragment," he said. Maya blinked. "A sun fragment? How do you break a star?" "They don't break it," Vala whispered. "They drink it." Boarding the alien wreck, one of the Selari ships drifted not far from the debris field. It looked old, torn open by claws that had no logical shape. Rourke assembled a small team, Marines, engineers, and scientists, to board the wreck. Maya piloted the drop shuttle. When they docked, the airlock hissed open. Darkness swallowed everything. The Selari vessel smelled faintly of burned ozone and bitter metal. The walls were scratched with long, spiraling marks. "What could make these?" Marine Sergeant Cole asked. Dr. Kadim examined the scratches. "Something with no bones, no fixed shape, like liquid metal but alive." Vala stepped forward slowly. "They are not creatures, they are parts of the whole. Each devourer ship is made of millions of these units." The Marines tightened their grips on their weapons. "Wait," Cole said, "so the enemy ships are alive?" Vala nodded. "Yes, and hungry." As they explored deeper, they found collapsed hallways filled with dust. Not ash dust, pure gray dust. Kadim ran a scan. "This is organic. This used to be Selari bodies." Maya whispered, "They turned people into dust." But the horror did not end there. In the center of the ship they found a round chamber. Strange black stains covered the walls, pulsing faintly even though the ship was dead. Cole backed away. That looks like blood." "Not blood," Vala said. "What you see is leftover essence of the devourer tendrils. They melted through the ship like acid, searching for life." Rourke touched the wall lightly. The pulse responded, the stain shivered. He pulled his hand away instantly. "Team, double time, we leave now." The rift returns back on the Titan. Alarms suddenly screamed. Rift opening 20 million kilometers. Energy signature rising. Multiple distortions incoming. Rourke rushed to the bridge. "What is it? Another watcher?" "No," the sensor chief said with a pale face. "This is bigger, much bigger." Maya pointed at the holoscreen. A vast tear ripped through space, much larger than the first one. It looked like a wound in reality, edges burning with black fire. Vala gasped. "That is the Devourer Gate, their entry point." Dr. Kadim whispered, "And it's still growing." The rift expanded with a horrible stretching sound, echoing across the ship's hull in vibrations. Crew members covered their ears as the rift sang, a low, mechanical, monstrous hum like a dying planet screaming. The holoscreen displayed numbers rising rapidly. Gate size increasing to 6,000 kilometers. Now 8,000, 10,000. Rourke slammed his fist on the command rail. Weapons ready, prepare for contact. But then something changed. The rift stopped expanding. The hum faded. For a moment there was silence. Everyone leaned forward. Maya whispered, "Is it over?" Vala shook her head slowly. "No, it is beginning." The harvester ship out of the rift, a shape began to emerge. At first it looked like a shadow, then it grew and grew until the entire bridge trembled from the size of it. A monstrous living ship pushed through the portal, thousands of kilometers long, covered in spikes, tendrils, metal plates, and glowing veins. It looked like a planet-sized skeleton forged from nightmares. Maya whispered, That's a ship." Vala shook her head. "That is only a harvester." "Only," Dr. Kadim whispered. "The true Devourer Fleet travels behind it." The harvester turned its massive head-like structure toward the Deathworlder Fleet. A deep vibration shook their hulls. Rourke grabbed the command rail. "What is it doing?" Vala's voice trembled. "It is smelling you." The harvester's entire body glowed as it scanned the system, and then it stopped, turned its body slightly, and aimed directly at the human fleet. "It has found you," Vala said. "It is calling the others." Kadim checked his screens. "Oh no, Admiral." 5 more rift signatures appeared behind the harvester, more gates forming, more monsters arriving. "Sir," Maya shouted, "what do we do?" Rourke's voice hardened. "We fight." The first attack, the harvester's front split open like a mechanical jaw. A strange, silent beam burst forward, not light, not energy, but something else, something that drained color from the stars. "Brace!" Rourke shouted. The beam swept across space. Where it passed, smaller rocks turned to dust instantly. A chunk of debris evaporated. A former Celari city-sized fragment dissolved into gray powder. The beam moved toward the cruisers. Cruiser Nova evasive maneuvers. Too late. The beam touched the Nova's shield. The shield flared, screamed, then vanished. The beam hit the hull. Metal aged thousands of years in a second, turning rusty, then brittle. The cruiser shattered. The crew had no time to scream. Maya covered her mouth, shaking. It unmade them. The bridge was silent. Then Rourke spoke sharply, his voice the only anchor in the chaos. "All ships return fire, full batteries." The Titan roared with power as dozens of railguns fired. Plasma bolts streaked across the dark. Particle lances crackled like bright spears. The shots hit the harvester, but the impacts only made ripples on its living hull. "It's regenerating," Kadim said. Rourke growled, "We need a weak point." Vala whispered, "There is none." There was a slow, terrible shift in the harvester's body. Its tendrils curled inward, its core brightened. Vala's voice dropped to a terrified whisper. "They are preparing to open more gates." Rourke slammed the command panel. "Then we stop it before it brings the entire swarm." Rourke's impossible order, the Titan shook again as the harvester charged energy. Rourke turned to his officers. "Prepare the Titan's gravity lance." Maya's eyes widened. "Sir, that weapon tears space. We can't use it inside a system. The whole area could collapse." Rourke stared at the harvester. "If we don't strike first, the Devourers will bring 50 of these things through that gate." He pointed toward the monster. "One harvester is already killing us." He raised his voice. "Load the gravity lance." The crew hesitated only a second, then obeyed. On the screen, the harvester's core glowed brighter. "They're opening another rift," Kadim shouted. Rourke turned. "Fire!" The Titan's gravity lance launched a swirling beam of compressed space, bending reality as it flew. It hit the harvester dead center. The monster screamed, a horrible, grinding metal roar that vibrated through every ship. Its body twisted. Veins ruptured. Tendrils snapped. For the first time, a devourer was hurt. Vala gasped. You wounded it." Maya whispered, "Humans actually did it," but Rourke did not look relieved. His eyes widened in horror as he stared at the screen. "Sir?" Maya asked nervously. "What's wrong?" The harvester was not dying, it was transforming. Its wounds twisted inward, folding into new shapes. Its core split in two. Kadim stared. "Oh no, Admiral, when you damaged it," he swallowed. "You gave it something new to chew on." The harvester began to reshape itself, learning from the attack, adapting. Vala fell to her knees. The devourers evolve instantly. The devourer turned its new, sharpened body toward the Titan. Rourke's eyes hardened. "Then we evolve faster." The harvester floated wounded but alive, twisting its massive living hull into new shapes. The space around it shimmered as if reality itself were bending to its presence. The Titan's gravity lance had hurt it, but instead of dying, the creature ship had learned. It was growing stronger. Admiral Rourke watched the hologram nervously. "Status of the harvester. Doctor," Kadim's voice shook. "It is adapting. The wound we caused is now a new organ. It looks like a shield layer." Maya Holt, her hands trembling on the control panel, whispered, "We shot it and gave it armor." Vala, the Selari survivor, clenched her hands tight in fear. This is why no one can stop them. Every attack becomes a weapon they reuse. Every wound becomes a new form. Rourke didn't blink. "Then we don't give them the same attack twice." Kadim turned, confused. "Sir." Rourke stared at the harvester with a cold, focused intensity. "We change tactics faster than it can adapt. That's how humans survived Earth, and that's how we survive this." Preparing for the impossible, the crew of the Titan scrambled. Messages flashed across the fleet. Engineers ran through corridors carrying toolkits, welding rods, power cells, and crates of experimental ammunition. Inside the Titan's weapons bay, Master Engineer Lyra hand stood on a platform overlooking rows of weapon racks. She shouted over the noise, "All right, team, we mix everything. Plasma, rail, ion, imp, gravity nodes." A young engineer asked, "All in one volley? That'll overload the systems." Lyra smirked. "Then reinforce the systems. Devourers don't wait for perfect safety conditions." The room erupted with frantic work. Near the center, two Marines argued while loading new projectiles. "These things even going to work?" one asked. "I don't know," the other replied. "But I trust Rourke more than I trust some space monster trying to eat universes." A strategy from a death world back on the bridge, Rourke issued commands. "We'll hit the harvester with rotating types of fire. 10 different weapon signatures, each for only seconds. It won't have time to adapt." Kadim frowned. "And if it does?" Rourke answered simply. "Then we invent 11. The officers exchanged looks. This wasn't confidence. This was pure Deathworlder stubbornness, the kind that made humans dangerous. Vala's story. Vala stood near the viewing window, watching the harvester twist like a wounded leviathan. Dr. Varin approached gently. "Vala, you should rest." The Selari shook her head. "You fight so differently than us, so wildly. My people believed in quiet logic, careful choices. We studied the universe, we never fought it." She looked at Dr. Varin with sad eyes, "And now we are gone." Varin placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You're not gone, not while you're here, not while we fight with you." Vala whispered, "But why fight? Why help us? You owe us nothing." Varin smiled softly. "Humans don't need a reason to help someone who's desperate." Vala stared at her for a long moment. "That is why the galaxy fears you," she said, "and why you may be the only ones who can do what no one else dares." Scouting the harvester meanwhile, Lieutenant Maya Holt piloted a small recon drone toward the harvester. She watched through a screen as the drone drifted silently across the void. "Let's see what your new armor looks like." The drone circled the creature. The wound caused by the gravity lance was now covered by layered plates that shimmered like liquid crystal. Tendrils around the wound pulsed with energy. "It's storing power," Maya whispered, "like it's preparing a counter-strike." Then the drone picked up something else, small beetle-like creatures crawling across the hull. Tiny machines, or tiny organisms, or both. Kadim zoomed in. Oh no, those are nano-organisms. They collect data. They're learning our weapons by reading the residue left on its hull. Maya swallowed. They're learning us. Rourke's face hardened. Pull the drone back. Maya reversed the drone, but suddenly the harvester pulsed. The drone's camera flickered, the feed cut, the drone vanished. Did it shoot it? Maya asked. No, Kadim said quietly. It ate the signal. Vala shook her head. It is calling its fleet. We wounded it, now it is hungry. The fleet arrives. Rifts began opening. 2, 4, 7. The bridge filled with alarm sounds. Multiple devourer gates detected. Signature spikes across the sector. Brace for swarm arrival. The crew looked horrified. Then the largest rift tore open like a black sun exploding. Ships, if they could be called ships, poured through. Some were long and serpentine. Others were colossal spheres covered in spikes. Some looked like massive beating hearts wrapped in metal. Others crawled like living mountains. The sight alone triggered fear in even the bravest humans. The Devourer fleet had arrived. Vala whispered, "Your fight was brave, but now the universe ends here." Rourke turned to her sharply. "No, it begins here." The battle begins. The harvester turned toward the new arrivals and emitted a deep pulse, a signal of coordination. Rourke gave the order. All ships attack pattern Alpha Chaos. Weapons fired. Bright streaks of light shot across the void. Rails, plasma, EMP rounds, ion bursts, everything. The Deathworlders had struck the harvester and the closest Devourer ships. The harvester reeled. The rotating weapons were working. It couldn't adapt fast enough. Kadim shouted, "We're actually hurting them. Their regeneration is slowing." The bridge erupted in relieved breath until the other Devourer ships reacted. A spiked sphere fired a beam that sliced a destroyer cleanly in half. A serpentine Devourer lashed out with tendrils that wrapped around a cruiser, crushing its hull like paper. Another creature spit a dark cloud that drifted toward the fleet. Maya scanned. "What is that?" "Entropy spores," Vala screamed. "Don't let them touch anything." The nearest ship tried to turn, but the spores touched its hull. Metal rusted instantly. The ship crumbled into dust. Maya whispered, "Everything they touch disintegrates." Rourke's counter-strategy, the Devourers advanced as a single horrific swarm. Rourke barked new orders. "Break formation, scatter the fleet, make them chase multiple targets." Dr. Kadim protested, "That will reduce firepower." Rourke didn't blink. "It will also force them to spread out. They can't adapt to 10 strategies at once." The ship split in all directions, dodging tendrils, beams, and gravity pulses. The Devourer swarm split to follow them. Rourke turned to engineering. "Charge the Titan's hypercoil." Lyra Hand's voice crackled through the comm. "Sir, that weapon's never been tested." Rourke growled, "Then today it gets tested." The hypercoil was something new, an experimental weapon that twisted magnetic fields into physical force. It was dangerous to the user as well as the enemy. But Devourers didn't care about safety, and neither could humans. The hypercoil struck the Titan rotated, aligning the hypercoil toward the harvester. Energy built. The ship trembled. Lyra shouted over the comm, "Coil at 60%, 70%, Admiral, the hull won't like this. Push it. 80%, 90%, core is screaming, fire." The Titan unleashed a spiraling, crushing magnetic storm. It hit the harvester and 2 nearby Devourers at once. The effect was instant. The harvester convulsed. Its armor cracked. The spiked Devourer shattered like brittle glass. The serpentine creature folded in on itself, collapsing into a black mass. Maya gasped, "We destroyed them 3 at once." Vala stared in disbelief. No one has ever killed a harvester, but Kadim's smile faded. "It's not dead." The cost of a Deathworld weapon. The harvester writhed horribly. Its core glowed red. A new pattern emerged, shifting plates, sharper limbs, a new mouth forming on its hull. Vala whispered, horrified. It adapted to the hypercoil instantly. Then the harvester turned its new mouth toward the Titan. Maya whispered, "Sir, it learned the hypercoil." Rourke nodded slowly. "And now it wants to use that knowledge against us." The Harvester charged. Titan alarms blared. Lyrahan shouted, "Admiral, the hypercoil overload is feeding energy back into the hull. Dump the energy," Rourke barked. "I'm trying." The Harvester's new mouth glowed brighter. Kadim said quietly, "It's copying the attack." Rourke exhaled. "Brace for impact." The Harvester unleashed its new, adapted hypercoil blast, a weapon humans had invented minutes ago, a weapon the Devourers had already perfected. The Harvester unleashed the stolen hypercoil blast. The space around the Titan bent violently, twisting like hot metal. Bright spirals of magnetic force smashed into the battleship's shields. The entire vessel shook so hard that several officers fell to the floor. Maya Holt clung to her console, eyes wide with fear. Shields dropping, 40%, 30-20. The blast continued tearing through the Titan's defenses. Pipes burst along the ceiling, consoles sparked. The lights flickered violently. Lyrahan screamed over the comm, "Admiral, hull stress critical, I can't drain the feedback." Rourke gripped the command rail so tightly his knuckles turned white. "Shields up, divert everything you have." "Already doing it," Maya shouted. "But this power, nobody should control this power." The Harvester roared with a sound that was not a sound, a vibration that rattled bones and shook spirits. Its new stolen weapon glowed again, preparing to fire a second time. Vala whispered from behind Rourke. "They learn too fast, they always learn too fast," Rourke exhaled sharply. "Then we move faster." The Titan's counter-move helm, Rourke barked. "Hard starboard, get us behind the debris field." Maya slammed her controls. The Titan groaned and turned, engines screaming under the strain. The hypercoil blast passed only meters from the ship, slicing through space like a scythe. The beam struck a massive asteroid behind them. The asteroid didn't crack or explode, it ceased to exist. Dust. Silence. Nothing. Maya whispered, "It erased a rock the size of a mountain." "Doctor," Kadim swallowed nervously. "If that hit us," Vala finished the sentence softly, "Deathworlder or not, you would be nothing." Rourke didn't blink. "Helm, keep moving. Weapons, prepare volley rotation. Engineering, stabilize the coil core. All ships, regroup into strike formation Delta Storm." A chorus of acknowledgments filled the comm. "You heard the Admiral, move." The fleet returns. Fire destroyers and cruisers swung back into formation, shaking off the shock. The Deathworlder fleet had been scattered, but not broken. They fired in rotating patterns. Plasma bursts flew first, followed by ion lances, then EMP waves, then railgun storms, each shot different, each unique, each meant to confuse the Harvester's adaptation. The Harvester screeched in frustration as its armor struggled to change shapes fast enough. Energy pulsed across its body. Several Devourer growths burst like rotten fruit under the pressure of mismatched attacks. Kadim's eyes widened. "We're slowing its regeneration." Maya grinned fiercely. "We can hurt it, humans can hurt it." Rourke pointed toward the monster. "Then we finish what we started, target the core." But just as the Deathworlders found hope, the Devourer swarm reacted. The swarm descends, dozens of Devourer ships surged forward. Spiked orbs spinning like buzzsaws, serpentine monsters, twisting through space, metallic creatures. With wings of burning energy, leviathans the size of cities, swarms of insect-like drones pouring out of rifts, the Deathworlder fleet braced. Brace for impact. Multiple enemies incoming. They're everywhere. A Devourer sphere smashed into Cruiser Valiant, denting its hull and spilling drones like insects into the cracks. Marines rushed to contain the swarm. Another Devourer wrapped tendrils around a destroyer. The ship's metal groaned as it was crushed like a toy. Maya shouted, "Destroyer Phoenix is losing control." Rourke growled, "Tell them to fire their engines, burn the tendrils off." The Phoenix's engines roared. Flames lit its rear. The tendrils ignited and peeled away. The destroyer broke free, damaged but alive. Vala watched the chaos with trembling hands. This was how our home looked on the last day, Varin beside her said gently, but humans fight differently. Vala nodded slowly. Yes, you fight like tides, like storms, like the universe itself cannot tell you no. The harvester transforms again. The harvester's wounded core pulsed violently. Its body shifted, plates moving, limbs reshaping. It's changing form again, Kadim shouted. Within seconds, the harvester grew massive wings, skeletal frames covered in energy membranes. Maya gasped. What is it doing, flying, in space? No, it was gathering power. A horrifying realization spread through the bridge. It's about to release an area-wide attack, Kadim said. Rourke stepped forward. Helm, all ships spread out, but it was too late. The harvester unleashed a shockwave of collapsing gravity. The wave rippled across the system. Ships veered wildly. Hulls creaked under impossible pressure. Asteroids shattered. Drones died instantly. The cruiser Solaris was caught directly in the wave. Metal folded. The ship crumpled into itself like a tin can. Maya screamed. Solaris is gone, just gone. Rourke's voice stayed calm, but there was pain behind it. All units maintain distance. Do not cluster. The harvester followed the shockwave with a hideous roar, a sound that made every crew member feel a coldness deep in their bones. Vala whispered, shaking, "It calls." The others answer. The rifts behind the harvester widened. More shapes approached. More death, more hunger. The real Devourder Fleet was still arriving. The Deathworlder Marine's last stand, a Devourer Leviathan latched onto the Titan's lower hull. Its body was covered in spines and dripping dark energy. Boarding attempt. Maya shouted. They're trying to breach the hull. Rourke slammed the intercom. Marine Battalion repel boarders, use sonic charges and thermal blades. Inside the Titan, red lights flashed. Marines sprinted through corridors carrying heavy weapons designed for close combat. Corporal Dane yelled, "Form up, protect the core." Creatures burst through vents and floors, twisted metal beasts with too many legs. Their screeches echoed through the ship. The Marines fired. Rail rifles tore limbs off. Thermal blades cut through metallic flesh. Sonic grenades blasted creatures apart, but the Devourers kept coming. Dane stabbed one creature through its center. "I hate these things, they don't even die right." A Marine beside him shoved another creature into an airlock. "Welcome to humanity, freak." He hit the eject button, but more kept pouring in. Dane shouted into comms, "Admiral, we can't hold them forever." Rourke responded, "You hold until we win, that's an order." The Titan's final gambit on the bridge, Rourke watched the harvester prepare a second gravity collapse. He inhaled deeply. "We need to end this now." Maya turned toward him. "Sir." Rourke spoke calmly, "Charge the gravity lance again." Maya's eyes widened, "But if we use it twice, the recoil, we'll risk it." "Sir, the first shot almost tore us apart." Rourke looked at the Devourer swarm. "The second shot will tear them apart." Kadim hesitated. "If this fails," Rourke nodded, "we die, all of us." He raised his voice. "Engineering, charge the lance." Lirahan's voice cracked. "Admiral, this weapon is not stable. It wasn't even supposed to fire once." Rourke said softly, "Sometimes saving the galaxy means ignoring safety manuals." The Titan shook again as energy built. The harvester turned toward them, sensing the threat. It began charging its own hypercoil blast. Maya whispered, "Whoever fires first wins." "Or destroys the system," Kadim added. Rourke didn't blink. "Fire the moment the coil reaches 80. "Admiral, that's not full charge," Maya started. Rourke interrupted, "Full charge will kill us. 80 might only break us a little." Maya nodded, "Understood." The final shot, the Titan's gravity lance reached 70, 75, 78. The harvester's mouth glowed brighter. "Doctor," Kadim whispered, "Admiral, it's aiming directly at us." Rourke spoke with quiet steel. "Fire." The Titan unleashed its second gravity lance. At the exact same moment, the harvester fired its stolen hypercoil blast. Two impossible weapons collided in the void. Light vanished. Sound vanished, everything vanished. For a single moment, the universe held its breath. Then a violent shockwave erupted, blasting every ship in the system away from the collision point. Rifts buckled, devourer drones disintegrated. Leviathans screamed and folded onto themselves. Asteroids vaporized, the bridge lights exploded, the Titan's hull creaked. Systems died, the ship went dark. When the shockwave faded, the Harvester floated silently, cracked, smoking, barely holding together. Maya whispered, voice trembling, "We did it." Vala stared in awe and fear. "No, not yet." The Harvester's core flickered. It began to heal. It began to move. It wasn't dead. Not even close. Rourke exhaled, exhausted but unbroken. Round 2. The Titan drifted in the dark. The massive battleship, once the strongest vessel humanity had ever built, now floated helplessly, its engines dead, its hull cracked, its lights flickering like candle flame in a storm. Smoke filled the bridge. Sparks danced across ruined consoles. Crew members coughed, bleeding from small cuts, struggling to stand. Maya Holt wiped blood from her forehead as she forced her console back to life. "Power at 3%, she whispered. "Weapons offline, shields gone." Dr. Kadim staggered to a chair. "Most of our systems collapsed from the recoil of the gravity lance. We pushed the ship beyond safe limits." Rourke stood tall in the center of the dim bridge. Even with smoke around him, even as the alarm screamed faintly, he remained unshaken. "How long until we can move?" he asked. Maya swallowed. "If we're lucky, maybe never." That's when the Titan trembled again. The Harvester, still alive, was turning toward them. Its massive, cracked body pulsed faintly. Its core flickered with weak but growing light. It was healing, slowly, painfully, but surely. Vala stared at it with terror. It should be dead, but devourers never die. They evolve. They grow stronger after every injury. She stepped backward, trembling. "No, no, this is wrong. You wounded it more than any species has ever done. But you also gave it new ideas, new forms, new ways to kill." Rourke did not react. He simply stared at the Harvester. Then he spoke. "Prepare backup systems. We're not done." The swarm regroups around the battlefield. The surviving Devourer ships reorganized. Some were still burning, some drifted, crippled, but many still lived. They circled the Titan like hungry predators sensing weakness. Maya whispered, "They know we're wounded." Kadim nodded. "They smell energy signatures. The Titan is a feast to them." "And the fleet?" Rourke asked. Maya scanned quickly. "Half are gone, others are scattered. If they regroup, they'll draw the swarm away." She paused. "But they won't survive long." Rourke looked at her. "Send the signal. Tell them to pull back and regroup behind the moon fragment. They're more useful alive." Maya nodded and transmitted. Several smaller ships limped away, engines sputtering. The Devourers noticed instantly. A serpentine Devourer twisted sharply and lunged toward the fleeing survivors. Maya gasped, "It's chasing them." Rourke didn't blink. "Not if we distract it." Rourke's mad order. Rourke hit the shipwide intercom. His voice echoed through every deck. "Attention, all Titan crew, power is failing. Weapons are down, but we are not finished." Marines fighting below paused. Engineers covered in soot stopped welding. Medical staff looked up from their wounded patients. "We're Deathworlders," Rourke said. "We survive when others can't." His voice grew stronger. "And we fight even when the universe says we cannot." Silence followed. Then he gave the impossible order. "We're going to board the Harvester." Maya froze. Kadim's jaw dropped. Vala whispered, horrified, "You want to go inside that thing?" She stared at Rourke like he had gone mad. "That is not a ship, Admiral. It is a nightmare. It is death. It is the hunger of the universe made real." Rourke turned toward her. "That creature wants to devour everything we love. Earth, home, family, all of it." He walked toward the exit, voice calm. "We're going to cut out its heart." The Marines prepare in the lower decks. The Marines heard Rourke's order. Corporal Dane took a deep breath. "Board the giant murder monster." "Yeah, sounds like something humans would do." Private Hernandez shook his head. "You know what's inside that thing?" Dane nodded. "Nope." Hernandez whispered, "Exactly, we're dead." Dane smirked. Not if we kill it first. After a moment, the Marines all nodded in tired agreement. That's fair. They checked weapons, thermal blades, sonic rifles, hard-light shields, gravity charges, EMP grenades, portable breaching cannons. None of it felt like enough. But humans had started wars with less. The boarding plan. Rourke stood with the Marine squad in the hangar. His arm was burned, his forehead bleeding, his uniform ripped. Yet he stood with the posture of someone ready to walk into hell. The harvester is damaged, Rourke said. Its shell is weak in 3 places. We'll breach through its lower hull. Kadim approached holding a small device. This is a singularity charge, he said. It creates a micro black hole, very small, very short-lived. Maya stared at it. You're giving that to the Marines. Rourke nodded. Place it inside the harvester's core. That should destabilize it long enough to kill it. Hernandez asked quietly, Sir, how will we get out? Rourke looked at him with calm honesty. We'll improvise. Dane locked his armor. Marines improvise all the time. This will be easy. Hernandez whispered, This is not easy. The approach, a small landing craft launched from the Titan heading toward the harvester. The devourer was still healing, still bleeding, still broken, but still alive. Inside the transport, Marines stood shoulder to shoulder, breathing heavily. One asked, How do we know where the core is? Dane replied, We look for the biggest, most glowing thing and we blow it up. The others nodded. This was simple human logic, reckless but effective. Entering the harvester, the landing craft attached to a cracked section of the harvester's outer hull. The breaching cannon fired. The shell melted open, revealing a dark, twisting corridor inside. The walls pulsed like veins. The air felt thick, heavy, alive. A low hum vibrated through their bodies. Hernandez whispered, I hate this place. Dane nodded. Good, hate keeps you moving. They moved deeper. Strange shapes crawled along the walls, half machine, half organic creatures. They twitched and shrieked when they sensed humans. Dane raised his rifle. Open fire. The Marines blasted them apart. Metal shards and black fluid sprayed the walls. The harvester reacted. The walls flexed inward as if angry. Maya's voice echoed through comms from the Titan. Marines, be careful. The harvester is rerouting energy toward your position. Dane laughed nervously. Oh great, the ship knows we're here. Perfect. The core, after several minutes of brutal fighting, they reached a massive chamber. The ceiling rose hundreds of meters. The walls glowed with a deep red rhythm. In the center floated a gigantic sphere covered in pulsing cracks, the harvester's heart. Hernandez whispered, Yep, that looks like a core. Dane pulled the singularity charge from his pack. Let's do this. The Marines formed a circle. Dane placed the device on the glowing surface. It sank in slightly, merging with the living metal. Charge placed. Rourke's voice crackled over comms. Get out of there. The core pulsed suddenly. The chamber darkened. Then the harvester screamed. Not a sound, but a vibration so powerful it knocked the Marines off their feet. Hernandez shouted, It knows. The chamber walls closed in. Tendrils erupted from the ground. Creatures poured from the walls. The entire ship convulsed. Dane shouted, Run. The escape that shouldn't be possible. The Marines sprinted back through the corridors. Creatures chased them, shrieking. Tendrils whipped at them. The entire ship moved like a living maze. Hernandez fired backwards. Keep going. Dane grabbed him. Move faster. Behind them, the core began to glow painfully bright. The singularity charge was activating. Rourke's voice echoed through their comms. Marines jumped now. They had no idea what he meant. Then the Titan appeared overhead. Somehow Maya had flown the wounded ship toward the harvester. The hangar bay opened. Dane screamed, Jump. One by one, the Marines leapt off the harvester's collapsing hull into open space. The Titan's gravity anchors caught them midair and pulled them inside. Hernandez landed hard, gasping. We lived. Dane laughed breathlessly. I told you, humans improvise. The harvesters end. The singularity charge activated. A spark, a distortion. Then the harvester collapsed inward, screaming in a voice that rattled the system. Its entire body twisted, imploding violently. A shockwave ripped through space. The death of a Devourer monster echoed across the battlefield. The Devourer swarm froze. Vala whispered in disbelief. "You killed a harvester, you actually killed it." Rourke nodded. "Good, because we're not done." He stared at the other Devourer ships surrounding them. His voice was steady, fearless. "They want a war," he pointed forward. "Then humans will show them what a Deathworlder war really looks like." The Harvester's death scream echoed through the broken star system. A deep vibration rolled across space, carrying a message that every living Devourer understood: a Harvester had fallen. For the first time in their ancient existence, something had killed one of their giants. The Devourer swarm froze. Hundreds of twisted creatures, metal beasts, and living ships halted mid-attack. Their glowing eyes flickered. Their bodies trembled with a strange, unfamiliar instinct. Not fear, not anger, confusion. Deathworlders, small, fragile, weak organic beings, had destroyed something that entire galaxies failed to stop. The Titan rises again inside the Titan. The bridge slowly flickered back to life. Backup power stabilized. Emergency lights warmed. Screens rebooted. Maya Holt wiped tears and sweat off her face as she checked readings. "We're still alive," she whispered. "Barely, but alive." Dr. Kadim leaned on a railing, exhausted and stunned. "I never thought I would witness the death of a harvester. Not in my lifetime, not in any lifetime." Vala stood in silence, staring out the viewport at the collapsing remains of the harvester. Her glowing eyes were wide, full of wonder and disbelief. "They killed it," she murmured. "You Deathworlders, you did what no star nation could, no alliance, no empire." Her voice trembled softly. "You stopped the unstoppable." Admiral Rourke stood tall in the center of the bridge, his uniform torn, his arm stiff with dried blood. He did not smile, he did not relax, he watched the swarm carefully. "We're not done," he said. "The Devourers are regrouping." The swarm's second wave, the Devourder Fleet, shifted formation. The remaining beasts began circling the Titan slowly, almost cautiously. Small drones buzzed together in new shapes. Larger creatures folded their limbs inward. Massive leviathans repositioned. Kadim frowned. "It's like they are thinking." Maya nodded. "They're planning something." Rourke narrowed his eyes. "They're learning from us too." A massive rift opened behind the swarm, not from the harvester, but from deep in the void. A new shape began to emerge. Vala's breath caught. No, this is impossible." Maya turned toward her. "What is that?" Vala whispered. "That is a Devourer Prime." Kadim's face went pale. "The commander of the swarm." A colossal shape pushed through the rift, bigger than any ship, bigger than the harvester. Its body was a fortress of metal flesh, its wings spanning thousands of kilometers, its core burning like a dark star. The Prime screamed, a sound that silenced the entire system. The Devourer swarm responded instantly. Every creature turned toward the Titan. Every ship aimed at the humans. Every drone flashed with lethal light. Rourke whispered, "Good, let them come." The Deathworlder charge. Rourke's voice echoed through the entire Titan and across all surviving Deathworlder ships. "All crews, listen up. The Harvester is gone. The Prime is here. We do not run. We do not surrender. We fight until nothing is left." He paused. "And then we fight with what's left." Across the fleet, tired crews stood, lifted weapons, pushed their broken engines harder. Marine Dane shouted to his squad, "You heard the man, time for round 2. Lyrahan screamed at her engineers, "Get me any power you can find. I don't care if you have to kick the generators." Pilots across damaged ships gripped controls with shaking hands. On the medical decks, wounded soldiers sat up, refusing to lie down. Rourke continued, "Humanity has only one rule out here: no one dies alone." The fleet responded with one united roar. "Yes, sir." The fleet's last stand, the Devourers charged as one. The Deathworlder Fleet countercharged. It was chaos. Beams of entropic death streaked across space, human plasma fire. lit the void ion storms wrapped around Devourer limbs, rail rounds, shattered drone swarms, leviathans, grabbed destroyers in their jaws. But the humans fought like nothing the Devourers had ever faced. One Deathworlder cruiser rammed a Devourer serpent at full speed, sacrificing itself to tear the creature in half. Another destroyer flew in circles around a giant Devourer beast, firing missiles into every exposed glowing joint. Even the tiniest scout ships dove into swarms of drones, firing until their engines burned out. This wasn't strategy. This wasn't logic. This was human stubbornness. This was Deathworlder fury. The Prime enters the fight. The Prime moved slowly at first, observing. Its massive wings unfolded. Its tendrils sparked with cosmic power. Its shadow covered the Titan. Vala trembled. The Prime is not like the others. It thinks. It adapts faster. It plans. Maya stared in awe. It's huge. It's like a living moon. No, Vala whispered. It is a living ending. The Prime raised its colossal arm. A sphere of collapsing light formed in its palm. Kadim gasped. That's a planetary annihilation weapon, Admiral. Before he could finish, the Prime fired. A beam wider than a city moved toward the Titan. Rourke shouted, all power to forward shields. The blast hit. The Titan screamed. The shields cracked. The hull bent. Metal melted. Consoles exploded. Maya's hands flew across controls. Shields at 8%, 7-5, Kadim yelled, we can't take another hit. The beam faded, smoke filled the bridge. Rourke stood untouched. Helm, he said quietly, ramming speed. Maya whipped her head toward him. Sir, we hit the Prime directly, we damage its core, then we get out. That's suicide, she cried. Rourke didn't argue. It's the only chance, do it. The Prime counterattacks. The Titan turned toward the Prime. Its engines sparked, coughing out light. The Prime reacted instantly. It extended a massive tendril and fired a gravitational whip. It slammed into the Titan, sending the ship spinning. Maya fought the controls. Hold on, the Titan spun faster. Panels ripped from the hull. Windows shattered. Crew members fell across the bridge. Rourke locked his boots and shouted, stabilize the ship. Maya screamed back, I'm trying. Finally, the Titan steadied. Barely. The Deathworlder final strike. Rourke stared at the Prime. He spoke softly, you hurt my world, you killed my people, you end today. He turned to the last surviving ships. Fleet converge on the Prime. Damaged ships limped toward the monster. Humanity had no weapons left except courage. Rourke pointed forward. For Earth, the fleet screamed as one. For Earth. The Titan fired its last remaining lance. Cruisers fired every missile they had. Destroyers rammed the Prime's armor. Scout ships flew under its limbs, targeting joints. The Prime howled. Its armor cracked. Its wings flickered. Its core pulsed erratically. Vala gasped, they're hurting it. The Prime is weakening. Maya shouted, we need one more hit, something huge. Kadim's eyes widened. We have one. He lifted a device, another singularity charge. Rourke, this is all we have left. Rourke nodded. Then let's feed it to the monster. Commander's destiny. Rourke grabbed the charge and walked toward the docking bay. Maya ran after him. Sir, you can't go alone. He didn't stop walking. This is my fight. Vala stepped forward. You saved my life. Let me come with you. He shook his head. No, live. Tell your people what happened here. He stepped into a small escape craft, a one-person pod. Maya whispered through tears, you're not coming back, are you? Rourke looked at her with soft eyes. Deathworlders don't die. We become legends. He launched toward the Prime. The final moment, Rourke flew straight into the Prime's wounded chest. Tendrils lashed at him. Energy blasts tore around him. Reality warped. He reached the core. He activated the charge. Then he whispered for humanity. A flash, a surge, a collapse. The Prime folded inward with a roar that shook the stars. Devourer ships screamed and vanished. Rifts snapped shut. The swarm dissolved into nothing. Silence returned to the system. The Prime was dead. The Devourers were routed. Rourke was gone. Aftermath. Vala stared at the fading light. He gave himself for the galaxy. Maya wiped tears from her face. He didn't die. How? Vala whispered. Maya smiled weakly. Because humans like him never really die. They stay alive inside every survivor. The fleet drifted in the quiet aftermath. Humanity had survived the impossible, and as long as one Deathworlder stood, the Devourers would never win. The legend of the Titan and Admiral Rourke would live forever.